We're both in our 40s.
Something like that.
Something, is that okay? Or am I outing you? So we're both like of a certain age. And one of the themes that I've experienced before, and I think that a huge amount of freedom for me has been releasing this, was this frustration of like, there were enough milestones or life was supposed to look a certain way. I have a visual for this, which is very weird. I grew up in upstate New York, and my visual, I used to take the Metro North train track to like Connecticut where my dad lived. And sometimes we'd have to stop and switch tracks. So I have this metaphor where like the train tracks just switched, not one day. I would describe it over like a 2-year period of not so much fun, of like kind of
but
dark
clunky.
night. Yeah, like dark night of the soul type thing. But I realized, so as I was turning 40, I'm like, I didn't do any of these milestones. I literally didn't do all the things that somebody at my age, in my upbringing, was supposed to do. And a lot of them I just didn't do because I didn't want to. A lot of them I was like, oh, maybe I'll want to do that someday. But when I got to 40, I was like, oh shit, like I actually like either like where does the track go? And it ends. So I had a visual of it ending, and it was like, but where does it go now? And of course it was like Connecticut, because I think there was a part of me where a lot of these memes in my life were created. Like I was living in New York City and like eventually you move out to the suburbs. So I don't know. So maybe there was something there. But started reading a lot of Jung, who talks about how like the first part of your life is experimentation and living and like kind of like messing up. Like
Carl Jung.
Yeah, Carl Jung, getting really like messy with it, right? And then you have an experience where I think most people just see as a midlife crisis now, but it's actually where you start investigating your inner world. Why am I here? Like, like what does it mean? Like, am I supposed to wake up every day and like think about my weight every single day? Like, these things that just like run us, right? I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think that's what I'm supposed to do. I don't think that's why God put me here. I don't think that's what I wanted. If somebody would have said to me as a soul, like, hey, you're going to go to Earth and just like be neurotic about like bullshit every day.
No. And what's the other option?
Yeah. It's like, there had to be a different thing, right? So I realized that, at some point we actually have to start asking ourselves these questions. And it was so freeing to realize, okay, I could move onto this other track of milestones that I create. It doesn't feel like, oh, I'm a certain age and I didn't do all these things, and now I need to move into like the legacy part of my life. No, now it's like, okay, cool. I have a lot of information. I have a lot of experimentation. Now it's like a treasure hunt for like, what's the meaning to all this? What's the purpose to all this? And that shift around this age is certainly not something I thought would happen, but it's like this kind of getting off this old of track onto a new one. And I think it's in line with this kind of paradigm shift. And it's very exciting because what I love that you talked about was, the beginning, right? But right before you had that frustration, which I did too. I was feeling, I went through a period of like deep, deep frustration and like, oh, I didn't do this, or blaming myself, blaming other people.
Fight with yourself and everything in society, and nothing's going right. It's like,
yes,